With the release of Captain America Brave New World now a week behind us, I am going to stop and rank all four MCU Captain America films. Welcome back, everyone, to Max Talks Movies. My name is Max, and we're ranking the Captain America film today. So if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications. If you like talking movies, TV shows, anything in the entertainment space, this is the channel for you. I do reviews, ranking videos, box office shows, out of theater reactions, all those things. So please consider subscribing, ringing the bell because I do post daily here. So definitely ring that bell so notified when my new videos drop. Comment down below. What are your ranking of the Captain America MCU franchise? My ranking is not the right ranking. It is just my personal list. So let me know your personal list. Give me some reasons on why you agree, disagree with me. Let me know in the comments. I respond to every comment. So definitely please comment down below. And also, guys, please hit that thumbs up button, guys. That's how you support this channel. Helps YouTube's algorithm out. So without further ado, let's get in this ranking. And starting at number 4 is the movie you see behind me, which is Captain America Brave New World, the weakest entry into the Captain America franchise. Now, this movie is getting a little bit too much hate now. As someone who gave a non-fresh review for Brave New World, I am someone who gave it a 2.5. I think I've been less on it the more I've thought about it. It just isn't a very well-made, well put together film. And it falls a lot on the studio hiring 5 different writers to have a screenplay credit for this movie. And you can tell this movie is more of a mess than an all-time worst comic book movie that some people for some reason think this is. This isn't even the worst MCU film, maybe in the bottom 5 MCU film. There's still some really good moments here. I think Harrison Ford delivers the best performance of the film. You really feel the emotion with Thunderbolt Ross, that stuff in there. It's always great to see Anthony Mackie. The Red Hulk stuff did work for me in this movie. Some of the action set pieces I thought were quite solid. But again, this movie is a mess. You can tell like Giancarlo Esposito's part of the film was clearly shot very recently and not with the rest of the movie. You can tell where there's obvious reshoots. And again, I'm not, as someone who's followed the movie's making, usually when I watch a movie, it can be quite hard to pick up when a movie shot this or if this was a reshoot or not. You really, most of the time, 99% of the time, you can't tell. But in this movie, you can really tell when something was reshot, redone with just CGI instead of a on location. And when you're watching the movie and you feel that, that's not really a good sign. The stuff with the leader just did not work for me in this movie. I think the biggest issue, which I finally realized after reflecting on the movie now a week since its release, which is I just think this movie just didn't let Sam Wilson be Sam Wilson. And obviously he's the whole point of the movie, and it says in the trailer, he is not Steve Rogers, but the script and the movie really wants him to try to be Steve Rogers. And the whole point of Sam Wilson is a lot more comedy. I know you need a serious Captain America, but there just wasn't a good enough blend of seriousness and comedy. I probably lost a lot of the essence of Sam Wilson in this movie. So Captain America, Brave New World is at number 4. At number 3 for me is Captain America, the First Avenger, the first Captain America film, the origin story for Steve Rogers. And I do have a good time. This is one of the more solid, just pure solid MCU films. This is not in the top echelon of MCU films, but the origin story for Steve Rogers, it's hard. I'm someone who does love a good origin story. And is this an origin story that has its cliches in it? It does, but it's an origin, one of the better top 3 or 2 MCU origin stories for one of its heroes. And Chris Evans was great casting. His chemistry with Haley Atwell, with Sebastian Stan, even with his multiple scenes with Stanley Tucci, tons of fun. I love Hugo Weaving as someone who's a big Matrix person, so I like him in this franchise as Red Skull, even Toby Jones as well. So there's a lot of interesting things in this movie. The Bucky Steve dynamic, as I said, the Peggy and Steve dynamic as well. The World War element of the film. I don't always believe at times Red Skull's again a legitimate threat to Steve Rogers, and having the Tesseract in this film didn't hit as well as it did in the Avengers. And my biggest problem also with the movie is that there's way too many montage scenes. We don't really get a lot of Captain America action until the last 15 minutes of the movie because as he's becoming Captain America, we're going through so many montages of him in wars. And I thought it was a massive mistake that just maybe just to sit in one or two of those action set pieces instead of there's like three or four montages in the second. There's first of all a bunch of montages in the movie. And I think it's just done way too often, and it's kind of lazy in that opinion. But again, it feels very different from the other MCU films, which is why I like it so much. So it's at number three. But the next two movies are in my top five total in the entire MCU. And at number two for me, very close second is Captain America's Civil War. Being yeah, I was 12 going into being 13 years old. I guess I was, yeah, 13 years old when this movie came out, or sorry, 13, 14 years old when this movie came out. The whole world was talking. I mean, Civil War, were you team Iron Man? Were you team Steve Rogers and Captain America? And I adore this movie. I've seen this movie, God, a billion times. It's such an easy movie to rewatch. We get the introduction of both Black Panther and Spider-Man's versions of the MCU in this film. Tons of fun. And not just that, it's the first time, and really the only time in the MCU where the effects of an Avengers-like effect affects the actual Avengers. Because they destroy New York, but they kind of quickly move on. And finally, the events of Age of Ultron affect the MCU. Not just that, also, but obviously the opening scene where Wanda accidentally killed a lot of civilians. This made logical sense for a Civil War conflict within the Avengers. And obviously, I'm always Team Iron Man. He's my favorite MCU character. But obviously, you can see both sides of the Steve Rogers and Tony Stark argument. The actual plot, you get the beginning of Wanda and Vision stirring up things as a possible couple that we later see in Infinity War. The actual airport scene is a top three MCU moment. You really can't believe all these people. And you got giant Ant-Man into the mix. So many fun quips and really serious moments. Alfre Woodard's in one scene, that scene really hits and shakes Tony for the rest of the franchise when he realizes that everything he did in Age of Ultron, they don't understand the cause and effect of an Avengers-like battle. And the seriousness overtone of this movie really works. The couple things that really didn't age well, which was the Sharon Carter, Steve Rogers kiss love thing in this movie, which is always been weird, even weirder now, post Steve going back to see Peggy in Endgame. So that part, and also I just didn't, Zemo's not been a character. I like Daniel Brühl, but just not the best. I understand what they're doing here with Zemo, but Black Panther takes care of him, but he feels way in the background. And whenever he's doing stuff, the movie is way less interesting when they're focusing on the actual Avengers. But again, this movie is in my top five, so it's a near flawless MCU film. But coming in at number one for me is, of course, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, which as a pure movie, not just a comic, not just a MCU film, just a movie, this probably is the best made and best movie of the entire MCU. Captain America Winter Soldier really took the MCU to another level as really the only surefire spy espionage MCU film. And it has aged really good. I can't believe this movie came out 11 years ago, but getting Bucky versus Captain America in this film is awesome. I also think this is the best movie inclusion of Nick Fury and Black Widow. Nick Fury has a lot to that action scene when he's in the car shooting. Such a cool sequence. His relationship with Steve being that important drives the movie. Black Widow is also really good in the movie, and her chemistry with Chris Evans and Scarlett, they have great chemistry in the movie. But obviously, it comes down to you caring about Bucky and Steve. Obviously, Robert Redford's Alexander Pierce, and the idea that so many SHIELD agents are Hydra. 70 plus years later, after the events of the first Avenger, Hydra is still thriving, going to these original camp. The twists and turns of the movie, the actual fight, still heartbreaking to this day with Bucky and Steve, where Bucky's, Steve's basically not fighting and basically letting you know that He'll never have, the guts to fight Bucky. The music from Henry Jackman is phenomenal for Bucky in this film. I think this is the best that all these main characters, Steve, Natasha, Nick, and Bucky, have been in the entire MCU. The Russos' first movie, too, of the MCU, obviously Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, but this was probably their best made film. It's a gorgeous film. You don't really feel the CGI as much as you do in other MCU films. It took the content very seriously. I think that's why a lot of people like me adore Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and that is why it is at #1. So what is your ranking of the Captain America franchise? Let me know in the comment section down below. Subscribe, like the video, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.